Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Eric with Neat Network and Cool Capacity. I'm here at the SCTE Expo 2023 in Denver. I've got David Calhoun standing next to me from Precision Optical Technologies, and he's going to walk us through a couple things that they've had here on the floor in regards to a demo. Good morning, David.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Eric. My name's Dave Calhoun. I am the technical director of the advanced engineering team here at Precision OT, and what we've been showing this week is our tunable 25 gig SFP28 DWDM extended reach optic that reaches out to 40 kilometers. This performance is enabled by a chromatic dispersion precompensation ASIC that my team built. This device is a device that's inserted in the tunable SFP28, and what it allows for is us to change something about the transmitted signal to pre-compensate for the effects of chromatic dispersion. So here on the show floor, we've got a link set up through a very conventional looking passive network, 40 kilometers of fiber, a 40 channel thin film filter mux and demux, and we're showing error-free communications over that link. So this technology, this ASIC, what it is doing is it's applying that chromatic dispersion precompensation and also transforming the optical signal into optical single sideband.
As I understand it, it took you about 2.5 years to work on this piece of technology. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, yes. So the ASIC development took us 2.5 years to go from pen and paper design to now we are in the phase of fully qualifying mass production of the ASIC to put into these transceivers. So we've been working now on putting this technology into the transceivers for about 8 months now. We're in the alpha phase of the product. Here on the show floor, we're demonstrating 2 of these transceivers communicating on 2 very different wavelengths. So chromatic dispersion does not only scale with data rate and with distance, but it's also appreciably different across the DWDM band. So down at the lower channels, you've got longer wavelengths, which experience more chromatic dispersion than the channels up at the higher side or the shorter wavelengths. So kind of showing the fact that our programmable ASIC is allowing for the same performance across this range is really important because conventional products today don't do that. You've got technologies that have the same type of transmitter that we've got here in ours. However, if you look at those longer wavelengths, those will perform significantly worse than the shorter wavelengths in the conventional products today. We've also got a demonstration here, and we have a video that we've put up on our socials very recently showing this, but we have another demonstration that shows our technology transmitting over a fiber. And one of a metric that you can measure to show the quality of a signal over a fiber is an eye diagram. What we're showing here on the floor is we can configure using software our product to look like either the conventional product with no chromatic dispersion compensation, or we can enable our chromatic dispersion compensation. And what you see on our oscilloscope is without the compensation, there's no discernible eye diagram. I can't tell the difference between a 1 and a 0 after going over 30 kilometers of fiber. When we turn our chromatic dispersion compensation on, I have a clear and present difference between 1 and 0. And that's exactly what we need to make these types of links work, from 0 all the way up to 40 kilometers. So our product is qualified and has configurations that can be achieved using software for any link distance from 0 to 40 kilometers across the entire, from ITU 14 up to ITU 61, and we're also iTemp qualified, so that's minus 40C up to plus 85C.
Very, very cool. So tell me about some other things in regard to platforms you work on outside of this one that you've just described here.
So this ASIC technology is actually a platform for additional intensity modulated direct detect technologies. So not only can we do tunable 25 gig with this module hardware, but we can also derate it down to 10 gig and get 10 gig performance out to about 100 kilometers.
Wow.
There, you're really only limited by optical link budget. So if you have a really lossy system, most likely it might be right on the edge or marginal for 100 kilometers. But as long as you have a good plant design, 100 kilometer performance, we believe, is achievable with this ASIC. Now this ASIC also, I mentioned optical single sideband. What that means from an optical spectrum perspective is, conventional networks, it's all 100 gigahertz grid. We actually live inside less than 50 gigahertz grid. So in theory, you could scale to 96 available channels, or you could take two 50 gigahertz grid channels and stick them in a single 100 gigahertz grid and do what's called an optical super channel. And so that could be, you use the same SFP28 ports and you do some kind of channel bonding, or we have opportunities here on our technical roadmap to look at taking, bringing that technology, that functionality inside the transceiver, so now you can achieve a 50 gig transceiver beyond just this 25 gig technology.
Nice. So how long have you worked at Precision now?
So I've been with Precision for more than 6 years. I have a PhD in EE from Columbia University. I was at the time focused on integrated photonics. And when I joined Precision, we were really given the opportunity. We're fully self-funded. There's no venture capital at play here. But we were empowered to kind of look at technologies in general and not really just see what sticks, but keep in the theme of the transceiver products that we have been developing over time. So when I joined, we were actually called Precision Optical Transceivers. Now we're called Precision Optical Technologies because over the years, we've gone beyond transceivers and now we're offering many other technologies than just transceivers.
And that was just a name change that had occurred earlier this year, right?
Yeah, just very recently, within the last month, I think. Yeah.
Very cool. All right, well, thanks for your time today, David. I really appreciate it. And I know our listeners are going to appreciate it too. We're set up, right here next to the Cable Tech games and getting ready to watch those go on. So I appreciate all of your, knowledge and willingness to share, what Precision is doing here. So
yeah,
thank
absolutely.
you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks. Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm on here today with Eric Moore and John Williams, the SCTE Dixie chapter. John, I believe you're the treasurer for the chapter, and Eric, I believe you are the secretary for the chapter. So what we wanted to discuss with both of you today was your Expo experience and kind of some defining moments, whether that was on the floor, in a training session. And then I was also going to turn right around after that and ask you if you did anything fun outside of the Expo experience. So I'll start with you first, Eric. What was your most defining moment last week there in Denver?
Well, the thing about Expo is it has so much to offer, and depending on what you're looking for, you can pretty much find it. Whether it would be the breakout sessions where we have really talented leaders that are doing some pretty awesome things within the network, or meeting with the vendors, or the general session, just find out what's going on with the different MSOs. I mean, there's so much packed into it that it's kind of hard to sum it up. I mean, having all of your vendors together in one place to where you can go talk to one and then walk 10 feet and talk to another one, and you're getting so much business taken care of while you have everyone there together. So it's kind of tough, but I would say probably the networking side of it is probably the what I got most out of it. And I'm not saying networking, but it's really building those relationships with our vendors. And not only that, I mean, as I would walk across the floor, in this virtual world that we've been living in the last 3 years, and you only see people, on a monitor, it was just really nice to, there were several people I met for the first time face to face, and there's just no substitute for that. And being able to bring everyone together and do that, it's so much easier to build those relationships with people. So I'd say probably the in-person portion of it was probably the most beneficial to me.
Very nice. John, how about you?
Well, I think Eric pretty much summed it all up and took all my mojo. But no, I mean he's dead on. The networking portion of that, I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, I love going to these events. They're awesome. You know, I enjoy going to see the vendors, seeing the new products that they have, and connecting with them, and just having that in-person experience is just, you know, amazing. You know, I know with COVID and everything, you know, a lot of people are a little skeptic about meetings still, but, you know, just being able to get out and about and, you know, visit with these people is just awesome. You know, Eric touched on one point, you know, walking 10 feet between and meeting people. And I think, you know, me and Eric hung out a lot. And I think when we first got on the floor, we might have been able to move 10 feet within an hour just because, you know, we kept bumping into people. So, but I mean, it was good conversations. You know, we got to talk a lot about work, you know, just business and, you know, just some outside personal stuff as well. So, but my experience was great. I mean, it was just awesome.
Very cool. Any vendor events? I know that there were a ton of after hours events. Anything that stuck out to you after hours too?
Oh yeah, Channel had a really awesome event. They wow, I can't think of the name of the place, but the the place was awesome. They had a cover band there, and it was an Eagles cover band, and like I said, it was pretty cool to be at that event. So.
Oh, that sounded like that may have been at the church. Am I thinking of the same event? With the cover band, it sounded like you stepped into a concert, basically.
Mm-hmm. I think this was something called the Electric Opera House or something, or like I said, I'm sure I'm butchering that name. I'll have to look it up now. So.
Wow. But, to Eric Moore's point, I mean, there were so many things. It sounds like an event that I went to, but it wasn't. So,
yeah.
Wow.
But no, I had a great experience. Like I said, I mean, it's just always nice to go to these events and then see these people that, you know, you're on calls with them all the time. You're emailing them back and forth, but, you know, you don't necessarily get to meet with them, you know, very often. And, you know, sometimes it's, you know, once a year, which is at the SCTE Expo. So, but no, I enjoyed it. It was amazing.
Nice. Did you both collect a lot of trinkets and toys too from the floor? I know me personally, you know, we get a lot of business cards, right, to add to our chapter mailing list and things like that. And it's kind of funny, you mentioned earlier, you know, not being able to move more than 10 feet. And that's exactly how I was on the floor my first day. I believe it was Wednesday. Thursday, I spent the whole day just touring the floor as much as I could.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I would go in with the intent of, you know, this is my targets. You know, these are the vendors or the people that I'm going to try to meet up with. And then, you know, we get pulled off from different places, and there were a lot of cool things. I mean, they had a lot of freebies that people were giving away. It's funny because one of the vendors had these little small lightsabers, and I picked one up. John and I went by and picked one up as we were on the show floor, and I'm thinking, okay, so how am I going to get this home, because it wouldn't fit in my luggage. And the funny thing was you know, I had it just sticking out of my backpack as I was going through security, and the TSA agent says, man, there had been a convention or something. I've seen these all day long. And like, well, I was really worried about if I was going to be able to get this through security. He said, just tell them the manager said it's all right. And I said, I'll tell him you said I must use the force. And sure enough, I mean, I took it on the airplane, got a lot of looks. The flight attendants talked about it, you know, different things. And, you know, it was kind of neat. That was probably the most visible freebie that I got. But yes, it is neat to kind of pick up those little mementos or things that remind you about the show and your conversations that you have with the different vendors. You know, it's so much to see, and I forget how many vendors were actually there. And sometimes, you know, they'd be covered up and you'd have to circle around and come back by later. It seemed to be pretty well attended. So yeah, to John's point, you know, it's a really great event. And for anybody that has that has the opportunity to go, I highly recommend it, especially if you've never been and you really don't know what you're missing out on. But to be able to see the latest and greatest offerings from our vendors, or just to meet them and build that one-on-one relationship with people, just a lot of value there.
Completely agree. And it's funny you bring up the Net Scout sword, if you will, or lightsaber. I ran into Donovan Brown, and we ran into him last year too, and he was like, how are you guys going to get those through airport security? Well, this time I got to say we're driving home, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, to your point, I think there were like 330 plus vendors on the floor. And I found out just yesterday through Tempo Communications that I won that backpack. I guess the right amount of M&Ms in the jar or whatever. So
Oh wow.
it's kind of funny because I've got one of those backpacks sitting in my office now, and now I've got another one. So
Yeah.
do you guys have any trainings coming up soon? Training plugs.
Just did one yesterday on fiber to the home. To be honest with you, I'm not certain. I need to go back and look. Which right now we're heavy into FDX. That's one of our big things that we're launching within Comcast footprints, and we're doing some targeted trainings just within the markets. It's really just 3 key areas that we're launching this year, but nothing that off the top of my head for the month of November yet. I'll have to reach out to our guy that's leading the training.
Yeah, and to your point about the FDX though, man, that's a beauty to see that node in Yeti, if you will. I was just taking a look at it earlier this week. In addition to the capacity on it, it's quite a sight to see.
Yeah, and you asked earlier, was there anything fun that we did outside of Expo? The Monday that we arrived, I actually got to go to the Comcast labs in Denver, where we have an outside plant built on poles with hardline cable, with an FDX node, and a whole test bank of CPE that's connected to it. And we got to do a lot of testing, just trying to figure out, okay, for our network techs that are out there performing BAU maintenance, are there any gotchas that they need to do? So we're trying different test probes on the tap, not on the tap ports, but on the port caps, where the connectors come in, the hardline connectors. We're trying different things there. We're kinking the cable, doing a radio crack on it. Pour a bottle of water into a tap, which is something that you never do. Nobody intentionally pours water into a tap, but we did. So, and we're watching, the performance of the network to see, okay, it's still cable 101, but how do these problems that we, are, the challenges we have within the network, how do they manifest themselves in an FDX world? So, it may sound kind of geeky, but outside of the actual Expo itself, that was the fun thing that I got to do, is just go and hang out with my team and try to break FDX, which was kind of neat.
Very, very cool. It sounds like an extreme pressure test, to make sure we're providing the right experience to our customers.
Yep.
John, did you do anything adventurous or fun outside of the Expo while you were in Denver?
I got to hang out with a few different vendors, just enjoyed conversations and dinners, but other than that, no, that was pretty much it. So
Well,
I do wish I would have came in maybe a day earlier and went hiking, because I bet there's some pretty nice hiking trails around in there. So.
Oh, okay. Did you come in on Tuesday?
So I actually came in Sunday night with Eric. So we kind of hung out most of the time, but I did hear some of the other vendors that did want to go hiking, and I was like, I wish I would have touched base with them. So so maybe a kind of food for thought next go round.
That's a fun idea. I know it's let's see, Expo's in Atlanta for next year. And then CLC will be in Scottsdale, Arizona. So maybe we'll see you guys at CLC before Expo.
It's very possible.
There's a lot of places to go around there. I've already been looking it up, which I don't know how many our chapter will send to CLC, but there's a lot within a couple of hours of Scottsdale that would be interesting. If I go, I may end up staying a day or two longer just to explore the area.
That would be fun, and I like the fact that we're going, early April, because who wants to go there in the middle of August, right?
Right.
All right. Well, thanks to you both today for getting on and sharing your Expo experience. I really appreciate it, and I hope you both have a great day.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
We appreciate the invite. Yeah.
And for anybody that hasn't been to Expo, I encourage you to go and go experience it. Talk to your leadership, see if there's an opportunity for you to go, or if it's if you're within driving distance, even if you just went in for a day, there's a lot of value there. And if you're part of the CAP and your MSO provides the funding for it, then pretty much if you get there, you probably won't have any other expenses for there at the Expo.
So true.
There's just a lot to do there. So highly encourage you to consider it. And if you're not a member of SCTE, by all means, there's a ton of resources there. So we highly encourage you to become a member and join a chapter in your area. Get involved.
That's well said. Thank you.
All right.
All right, good afternoon. I've got Jeff Haggerty, president of the Lake Michigan chapter. I've also got Don Simmons, assistant secretary for Golden Gate. And we are all here today with Neat Network and Cool Capacity just to get an update on the Expo experience from last week. So, Rick, why don't you go ahead and get us started with the first question to either Jeff or Don or both?
Yeah, I'll open it up to both. Feel free to jump in. And so what I want to know, you guys were both in Denver, beautiful city, beautiful weather while we were there. But from the Expo specifically, was there anything that stood out from the technology piece, whether, maybe test equipment, maybe a manufacturer and a product they're launching? What was the most inspiring, I guess, piece of technology or equipment or something that you saw? What was the one that you stopped and you're like, look at this is happening? And I'll call it out. I'll just say, hey, Don, what do you got first, and then we'll pivot over to Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. So I think when you said, this is actually happening, and where my MSO is going is SDS nodes. To see those in real life, specifically at the Harmonic booth, and getting the chance to actually sit down and talk with Adi, the CTO, kind of pick his brain a little bit more of how this is working, and walking away just kind of, this is so close, full duplex. And to see that finally lift off, and it's probably been, in my journey, it's at least been 5 years in the making. It's probably been more for others, but that's what sticks out for me.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, what a neat future that holds. So, Jeff, what about you? What did you see? What was what gave you that aha inspiring moment?
Well, so for me, that I always worry about those meters and pieces of test equipment. Just happens to be what happens with me. And probably what I thought was some of the neatest stuff is what's happening over at VX. They're doing a lot with their meter technology. They're doing so much more now with their little handheld spectrum analyzer, and their ability to see some stuff that maybe we couldn't see in years past. And so I think that those are probably some of the things. That's probably some of the spots where I thought I saw some of the neatest stuff that really, again, I'm in that meter test equipment space. That's what gets gets me going, all right, that's cool. So
You just don't want to throw your back out carrying around those spectrum analyzers from years ago. I get it. I get it.
hey, those things are heavy.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm with you 100%. You know, the test equipment, the evolution there, right? Unbelievable what they're doing in that space and making it easy for the technicians and everybody. So, yeah, definitely awesome. Eric, I don't want to leave you out of this. You were at Expo. What was it for you?
I believe I'd have to side with Don on that thought with the FDX piece. You know, Alad's presentation I thought was extremely well done. It's cool, you know, coming back today, getting involved, coming back earlier in the week and getting involved with some of the FDX stuff there. You know, they had a launch just recently in Colorado Springs. So we were measuring the capacity earlier in the week. They're keeping eyes on things like installs, right, to be sensitive of customer penetration. So yeah, I think it's the FDX piece. I also like the Broadcom piece too, right? That there's going to be like additional AI and machine learning eventually in our amplifiers. And I'd say the biggest takeaway for me was either get on the AI bus or get left at the station. That was really my takeaway from this expo.
Yeah, that's a good ad. And, you know, throughout Expo, not even related to equipment. I mean, there was trainings about, you know, how it relates to the workforce and hiring. And I would get on the bus. The AI, Eric's driving the AI bus. We're all going for the ride.
All right, we'll come around with another question, Rick. I'll keep the format the same. So go to Don first and then Jeff next. How has attending SCTE Expo impacted your career or business? And do you have a specific instance that highlights this?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm not sure how it impacts my career business. I think it pans out years later. You know, you meet new people, but the industry's small enough, and you could say, hey, weren't you at Expo at 2018 or 2023 or whatever? And I think it pans out later in unknown ways. But I can tell you what I get out of when I go to Expo. I am always reinvigorated and recharged about this industry. You know, past Expos, there's been other competitive environments, you know, satellite or whatever, and you know, now it's the streamers and how they're doing. And I always see great data and hear great talking points of why there's still life left in this industry for a long time. And that just keeps me going throughout the year until I can make it to industry again. So it always makes me feel well. How it pans out career-wise, that's always left up into the future, because you just might meet, you know, somebody that you come around with. Either you work across chapters or on a subcommittee, or, you know, maybe you end up working for a person, or they're working for you. You never know what this industry holds. What about you, Jeff?
I think where I see it, you know, as a small business owner, for me, the relationships that I'm going to build with, in my case, other vendors. So a lot of what I do at Expo is, yes, I talk to potential customers and whatnot, but I am also talking to other vendors. As a meter guy, I'm trying to figure out how I can best support a customer like a Comcast or a Charter, and I can do that best by having a broader spectrum of things that I can repair and calibrate. And, you know, just for instance, I won't give any names, but I've been talking to a couple of, you know, meter companies for years, one of them probably for 4 or 5 years. And at this expo, we sat down and, you know, we have a handshake on at least a project. So I'm for the first time in 5 years talking to this person, I'm going to get a chance to project with them. So for me, that networking and those relationships are really what Expo is all about. I've displayed in the past, and it's nice to meet new customers, but really where my business and where I'm changed is those other relationships.
That's fantastic from both of you. Rick, do you want to conclude this piece for us?
So I don't know if that's a good idea. Do you want me to answer that question?
Sure.
Because I don't have a good answer for it. but I want to ask one follow up, right? I want just one quick follow up, Eric, and then we'll wrap this up, and we'll go Don and then Jeff. Outside of Expo, while you were in Denver, did you do anything fun? Did you go see anything? Or was it all business?
Yeah, I didn't. You know, I'm in California. Our division office for the MSO I'm with is in Denver. So we do, I'm kind of funned out in Denver for right now. I was just there 2 weeks prior. But if I had the chance to go, I would have gone to Meow Wolf, which is like this immersive art installation. But I didn't have.
I was seeing the advertisement for that. Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, something just popped into my mind. I did go to an event that was a lot of fun. They had it at the aquarium. That was an impressive Denver aquarium. That I don't know. I was really impressed on the layout. It wasn't the biggest aquarium in the world, but the layout was done really well. And I don't know if any of you got to actually go to that event at the aquarium, but I was impressed by that. I would definitely go back and take the kids. So I totally spaced on that. I did that on a Wednesday night.
Didn't get to do that one. That was the Power and Tell event, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Correct. Yep. Jeff, what about? Yep. Sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
My wife. Yeah, my wife was there with me, and she did everything. So she went and saw everything, including Red Rock. She went out to the little town of Evergreen, up in the mountain passes. But what probably the most fun that I had wasn't even actually in Denver. My son is going to school in Fort Collins, which is about an hour north. So I rented a Tesla and drove up there, and we had dinner with him on Tuesday night. So that for me was actually probably, no offense to Expo, it was one of my favorite moments just because I haven't seen him in a few months. But Denver's a great city, love it. I could go there all the time, maybe not as often as Don does, but I could go there all the time and enjoy it every time.
Yeah, awesome. And, you know, as great as SCTE does on the Expo, you can't trump the family time. So glad you got to spend some time there. And glad your wife got to go and have all the fun while you were busy working hard. Eric, I'll ask you because you're the event guy. Did you get any opportunity to go do anything fun?
We did. Precision Optical Technologies held an event at a place called The Church, and it was literally a concert. Like you walked into a concert. And for folks that may know this area, there was a little place called Clutch Cargoes that used to be open in Pontiac, Michigan in the late 90s or 2000s, and it totally reminded me of that and other folks. Like we walked into a concert, basically. So props to Precision and ATX and the other vendors that put that show on.
Well, and I'll wrap us up. I'll bring us on home with a couple little thoughts. Is one, as always, the vendors do a fantastic job with the receptions, the after-hours stuff. It's always a challenge to figure out where you're going to go, who you're going to spend time with after hours. The folks at National Cable Labs and SCTE, another awesome event. It was great to see all the foot traffic, all the vendors, all the folks. Great to reconnect with a lot of people that you see at those events. I think, Don, you said it, I might have seen them 2-3 years ago, but overall for me, an outstanding experience. I'd like to thank Don and Jeff for taking a little time out of their busy schedules to give us a quick couple minutes on what they got to see, what they got to do in Denver, and it was great to see you guys. And then Eric, thanks for putting it all together and keeping the podcast alive. Always appreciate that from you. Any last thoughts, any last words, Eric, before we end the call?
No, it's just great to see you guys, and we'll see you at Expo again next year if we don't talk before then, which I'm sure we will.
Absolutely. Everybody have a great afternoon. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
See you guys.
Have a great day.
See you. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Neat Network and Cool Capacity. And this afternoon with me, I've got the number one chapter in the country, SCTE Gateway Chapters, Dennis Russell. Also his guy, Brian Huffstutler, who participated in this year's Cable Tech Games at Expo. So, Rick, I think I'll go ahead and turn it over to you first to open up for questions on the Expo experience with these gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. And awesome to be on with the number one chapter. We all went to Expo. All of us got to partake in that. It was a great time. We'll ask you guys a couple questions. Pretty simple stuff. Not trying to stump you, but I'll just start with you, Dennis. While you were at Expo, what do you think, or what did you see? Fill us in. What was the coolest piece of tech? Test equipment. What was the most memorable piece of Expo for you?
Appreciate it. Thanks for having us on. Appreciate the kind words. Gateway chapter is a good chapter, and we, like I said before we started here, hoping to improve this year as well. As far as Expo, every year there's something that's the main topic, the highlight of the show. Everybody wants to see it. It usually lasts 2 to 3 years before it actually comes to fruition. And for me this year it was the DOCSIS 4.0 stuff. Brian and I both sat through a pretty good seminar, automated networks and smart amplifiers, presented by Nader from Technetics and Richard from Comcast, Richard Proden. That was one of the better seminars that I've seen in many years of Expo. I was explaining to Brian, a lot of times you see guys get up there and tell you what their new piece of gear or test equipment's going to do, but they don't exactly show you how it's going to do those things. This seminar was different, and if anybody attended Expo and missed it, or has the access to the recordings afterwards, definitely go check this one out, because if you're interested in DOCSIS 4.0 and the new amplifiers that Comcast is using, definitely check it out. They went nuts to bolts, how the signal flows through schematics of the amplifiers, the deletion of the diplex filters and addition of DCs. And if you're a tech guy and you're a hands-on RF HFC guy, you're gonna enjoy that seminar a whole bunch. And I learned a ton. I've spoke to Mike Odell a couple times over the past few years about their progress in that. And, here at Madison, we're on the verge of we're hitting a fork in the road ourselves as a company. Fiber obviously is a big path for everyone, but we have a lot of HFC plan out there, and amplifiers is our next upgrade after RFI nodes that we put in last year. So, seeing the different technology that's out there in the amplifier world today, I think we've been talking about it for years. All the intelligence has moved itself, from the head end out farther towards the customer, and the amplifiers are just the next step in that. And it's really neat to see the breakthroughs that they're having there, and the opportunity to provide that next level of service to your customers is just crazy to me, and it's so interesting, and a lot of cool stuff. But for me, that was the top of the list this year.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. Look at. Oh, sorry.
No, go right ahead. I was just listening.
I was gonna say, I just to watch that progression and how smart the equipment has gotten, and then really taking that complex piece of equipment with the 4.0 amplifiers that Aris has out, or whatever provider, and the simplicity of them, yet the complexity of them all in one. So fantastic, awesome, little plug there for the chapter and the training. What about our other special guest? Was there anything that stood out to you? And I guess it could be the DOCSIS 4.0, right? But was there anything else that you thought, man, that's really cool, or I'd like to have that, or wow, that really really blew me away that that's out there.
So one of the main themes of this year's Expo was AI integration, and
Yes.
that same seminar that both of us sat through, it was the first half presented by Nader was all about how AI integration could communicate with these smart amplifiers, which I found fascinating. It's trying to use the G3 method of communication like the power company does through its power coils to send and receive messages from these smart amps to remote control them, which I find to be fascinating, but it's also kind of daunting as a technician. Like, when are you going to not need me anymore? So I found that fascinating.
Yeah, the tech along that, you know, and I think any technician or field person would say, oh no, you know, they're getting too smart, but you know, equipment still fails. We still have storms and things like that. So I try to look at it in the space of hopefully it can make our job easier, and then we'll go do the manual labor behind it, right? But yeah, no, it's great tech, and I'm glad you touched on the AI. That was a big topic at Expo, and you know, been around for a long time. We see it on social media feeds, Google searches. You know, they're using that intelligence in the background, and it's coming more and more into our world, right? So, with that, Eric, I'm going to turn it over for you to ask a question or two for the group.
Sure, I've got one. But before I dive into it, Brian, did you get a chance to walk away with any hardware from the cable games? I know our group had to leave pretty early, so we didn't get to see the finishing.
Yeah, I finished first in Jeopardy, third in OTDR, and third in MTDR.
Nice. Congratulations to that. That's awesome.
Couple medals.
That's always nice to be able to bring the hardware home. All right, so my question is for Dennis first and then for Brian next. Did you get a chance to do anything fun while you were at the Expo outside of our format, right? Of the seminars, the trainings, some of the leadership stuff, the floor stuff. Is there anything that you got a chance to do while you were there in Denver outside of Expo?
Absolutely. I got the opportunity to go to Denver for Expo. I think it was 2017. It's the last time I was there, and I didn't get the opportunity to go see the cable center. So I feel kind of bad. I'm probably stealing all Brian's answers here, but Brian and I took half a morning and drove over to the Sendeo Institute at the cable center. It's on the University of Denver. Again, if you get out that way or you're in that area, definitely a cool thing to check out.
Neat place. I was there in 2016. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, not knowing what to expect, hearing stories. On the Gateway Chapter Board, we've got a couple individuals. You know, we're fortunate enough to have, you know, Dick Beard and Tom Jokers and guys like that who are in the SCTE Hall of Fame. And, you know, going over to the Sendeo Institute and having had previous conversations with them, I think Tom's told me stories about building coffee can amplifiers, and we were able to see one, you know, on display there. Brian Kinney is the gentleman that runs the Barco library over there. He gave us a tour, and, you know, you go downstairs in that place, and it's just, it flows from the head end, you know, through the satellites and antennas and all of the different aspects of the cable world that we've known, you know, for the last 20 plus years. All the different iterations and versions of hardware, and it's just neat to see it all in one place and to reminisce with people like Brian and Hunter, who's also with the Gateway Board, you know, and Brian, and I believe there was a couple other charter employees that showed up halfway through the tour, and, you know, just hearing everybody's different inputs on which equipment they put in, and, the different stories that kind of thing brings to mind when you're looking at the first weather center that they used on cable TV back in the day. I mean, just it was a really cool thing. You don't know what to expect. Like I said, something like that is really cool to somebody like me, but my kids think it's really corny. So I didn't know if I was gonna walk away with the feeling of, man, I'm really proud to be part of this industry, which is what I felt when I walked out, or if I was gonna man, that was kind of corny, But no, it's really well done, really well put together. I won't say too much more about it. I'll let Brian have some say too. I'm sure there was some things there that he saw that really stood out to him. But being in Denver, it's the mecca for our industry and what we do. Constantly learning new things, and that was just a part of it. Sometimes seeing the old things brings back things that you forgot that you even knew. So to me, that was really cool, and I'm glad we got the opportunity to do that this year.
Very nice, yeah. Yeah, the Cable Center, it's got like such a rich piece of history to it, if you will. And I don't even think I got to explore it to the fullest extent that I had wanted to when I took D31 training there in 2016 through the SCTE. Yeah, I'm curious from your perspective, Brian, did you get to do anything fun?
I'd say probably the Cable Center is a good answer. Just going through there, and some of the things there that stood out to me were they got pictures from the 60s of putting up, community antenna for, the whole mountain area and the Rocky Mountain chapter. And then you go from that to the old school weather channel where it's just a camera that rotated through and showed the barometers and stuff and the readings. Where they could slide ads on the sides, and just to go from there. And then we went to the theater in there, and on the chairs they have names of people who have contributed to the Cable Center. And funny thing happened with that is I recognized one of the names, and then we were at the dinner at Expo, and the guy who sat down at our table, I recognized his name whenever he told us his name from the chair at the Cable Center. So that was pretty cool. He was an old guy just sitting there drinking Coors Light and watching the show, and come to find out his name's Rex Porter, and he's part of the cable history, So I think Dennis even got up and was like, I feel like I need to know your name. So he went over and introduced himself, and that's when I heard his name. I was like, hey, he's on a chair. So
small cable world.
That was fun. Yeah, it was fun. And then we had Andy Parrott sat next to us at the same dinner, and that guy has a presence about him that is really contagious. Just the way he carries himself is outstanding. Just networking throughout the whole event is just pristine. You can't beat that.
Yeah, that summed it up extremely well. Does Gateway have any trainings coming up? Any plugs for training?
Yeah, we have a couple trainings coming up here in November. Funny story, but I'll share that with you later. But we've got one coming up on November 22nd. It's going to be a replay of a Brady Volpe preventive maintenance one that he did for the Buckeye chapter. So that's coming up on November 22nd. Yeah, a lot of DOCSIS 4.0 stuff in there, as well as full band capture, things like that. And then November 29th, we're going to have a live webinar presented by Invent, Erico, Telcom. Melvin Sylvie and Oscar Martinez over there are going to do a bonding and grounding seminar for us. So 22nd and the 29th, yeah, check them out.
Sounds awesome. Rick, any final closing words for us?
Nothing super relevant. I do want to say, Brian, congratulations on the hardware and the wins in the cable games. Fantastic, and be proud of that accomplishment. That's pretty impressive. Dennis, I love how ambitious you guys are. 7 days apart on training. You making the rest of the chapters look bad when you guys do stuff like that.
Like I said, funny stories there. Yeah.
And I can guess, right? I can guess, and so can Eric, and anybody that's been on the boards probably understands what's happening there. But
absolutely, and that's the only reason it's a funny story is because everybody on the board understands that. So
yeah, we all deal with the same things. But with that, I would say thanks, guys, for taking the time out. Apologize for my audio today and my tardiness, but really appreciate you guys setting some time aside to join Neat Network in Cool Capacity. And hopefully we can have you guys back on the show sometime in the future.
Absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Thanks, guys.
You guys have a great one. Happy Halloween.
Have a wonderful
Yeah,
Happy
thanks,
Halloween.
guys.
Yep, you too.
One.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Neat Network and Cool Capacity podcast. Doing some 2023 SCTE Expo recap. Got a couple guests with us, but let me turn it over to Eric real quick. Eric, how's things going today? How are you?
Things are going good, man. Just, got some afternoon work to finish up. It's been warm here this week. I'd say 70s. Just trying to get as much yard work done as I can before winter hits. Things are going pretty good. In fact, this morning we had a celebration the chapter did for Sam because, as you know, he won the SCTE Member of the Year. So we had a nice celebration with him this morning, and Nick even showed up, which was cool. I think Rudy had a prior engagement going on, so he couldn't get on. But, yeah, fun stuff overall.
I'll check my calendar. I think I missed that invite. So, anyhow, wrapping up some yard work down here, right? Winter's coming, and I think it's going to hit next week, at least in Indiana. I think you guys got some cold weather coming up there. But anyhow, so without further ado, I'll just give a quick layout. So basically we reaching out to, folks, chapter members that have reached out or that were able to attend the expo and just asking them a couple questions, short questions here, what kind of things they liked about expo, was there anything cool they saw, things like that. So that being said, got a couple of the Central Indiana chapter members here. We've got Dan Furness, Comcast. He's a head-end manager, covers Indiana North for the head-end team. And then we also have Louis DeArmond as a network manager, also in the same footprint as Dan. So he covers a little bit of Central Indiana up north all the way up to Fort Wayne there. So welcome, guys. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you taking time out of your day to jump on with us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Richard. Yeah, awesome. So, Eric, I'll go ahead and I'll ask a question, and then I'll direct it to Dan first, and then Louis, we'll go back to the same question with you. Eric, I've asked this one before on a previous cast, and here it is. So at Expo, right? I know it was last week, and some things are foggy, but Dan, what was maybe one of the neatest innovations, the new technology? What was something that as you're walking the floor there that really stood out to you that you were like, wow, that's pretty slick, or man, I've never seen that before, and it's wide open. It could be equipment, it could be some test equipment, it could be actual, might have been something that's going on new in the head end or anything. So what was the hot technology that caught your eye this year?
Oh wow, there was definitely a lot out there. It was a lot to take in, from fiber splicers to monitoring equipment to new technologies getting rolled out. It was just kind of a plethora of things to check out. The fiber splicers, there was a particular vendor that had one that we've got our eye on. It hopefully we'll be able to purchase some and get some to the team members there. It's got the splicer and all the tools all rolled up into one device, and that was a really great idea. The splicers we have now are good, but there's separate pieces to each of them. So and all in one, that's handy for the tech. So another thing that caught my eye was an EAS monitoring device that hooks up to the monitoring systems we already have to go in remotely, look at video and confirm our channels and such. Well, this device would actually pick up the EAS alerts and document those, and then export them. We could export them and keep those for records that we have to turn over to the FCC.
Oh, wow.
So that was another one that caught our eye. And then, of course, all the full duplex stuff that's getting rolled out. All that digital architecture equipment is pretty impressive. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And I mean, I think you said it. Wow, there's so much, right? I mean, whittle that list down because there's just so much going on. There's so many things to see. All right, let's switch over to you, Mr. DeArmond. Anything?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, anything that stood out, any new technology, what do you think?
I just think it was neat going to the Comcast booth there, Rick, and I think you were with me, and looking at some of that new equipment on the wall that we're getting ready to install. The one thing that kind of caught me is how simple that equipment is and how easy it is to run. I mean, not tons of pads and all sorts of stuff to do. The one with the RPD there in the lid, it looks like it's going to fit in some of our old housings. I stopped by the Hytron. I was really excited to see the tool that I've heard about multiple times. I want to say it's called the XMFR or XMRF that does 3 or 4 different tests for us. It's something that they're building for Comcast. So I got a few of those that'll be getting ordered so we can test it out and see how good of a tool it really is.
Yeah, awesome. And test equipment, right, for us. Dan, you included, right? I mean, that test equipment, that's day in and day out. We're grinding it out. So
yeah, it's critical. Okay.
Cool to see what's happening out there, and it's really neat. Like you guys both touched on it, is we're taking 2-3 different things, sometimes more. The technology's changed, and we're able to package that in a nice smaller package with multi-function, one-stop shop kind of stuff. So appreciate that. Eric, I'm gonna turn it over to you for the next question.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm gonna steal your one for this, Dan. So you talked a lot about the technology. You talked about the vendors you saw on the floor, etc. So was there anything outside of the format of the expo that you did that was extremely fun? Any events you attended, folks you saw, just kind of highlighted memories outside of what we were actually there to do?
Oh yeah, once we got outside of the convention center, there was, there was a few different things that we did, but mostly, interacting with some of the people that we just kind of met and made relationships with over the years, and some people haven't seen in forever, but friends in the industry. There was a lot going on just the whole week. It was such a great experience.
Nice. Louis?
Well, all in all, it was the first time for me to be in Denver, so I had a great experience. I didn't get to sightsee like I wanted, but I definitely attended a few get-togethers, got to see some friends, some vendors, got to meet some new folks, got to see people just standing in a certain spot for more than 24 hours at a time. Rick knows that, but all in all, it was neat. I think the highlight for me was after one of those get-togethers was seeing Sam Akoff walk in, because I hadn't heard that he had received that award, so I was really excited to see Sam and congratulate him.
Awesome. Yeah, I had to keep my lips sealed that day. You know, Rudy had texted me in the afternoon. I'm not sure what he had shared with everyone else, right? But he was like, I need to connect with you. I'm like, is this work related? Is this SCTE related? What's going on here? And I think he was in the middle of his rehearsal with the team for the awards. And he said, like, essentially in so many words, Sam's going to win an award tonight, and I need you to make sure that he's there. Rather than get his name called out and he not show up. So I started making my rounds throughout the chapter, calling folks to put some additional pressure on him as well, to make sure that he's there, right? And as I've said before, like, he's always looking for like that next thing or cool thing to do, or something that's just going to be fun, extremely fun to do. And we weren't necessarily sure if it was going to be the award show that he was going to show up at. So we had to make sure that he was there.
Yeah, that was awesome too. He had no idea. That was such a great experience right there. So.
Eric, you just filled in some blanks for me. Rudy reached out to me, asked if I was still with you. And I said no. You know, we had separated. I was doing some tours with the division. And he's like, well, can you send me I need Eric's number. Can you send it over to me? I need to talk to him real quick. I had no idea. Till just now, that's what he was trying to get in touch with you about. That's pretty neat.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Eric, I'm going to ask on you. You got any other showstoppers? Any other questions for Dan or Louie?
Well, I'm curious. You know, since we've got so much of the Central Indy chapter here today, what's coming up? What's new to finish out the year? I know you guys were done with your training hours in January, so I'm curious what's going down from here.
Yeah, so I'll take on this one. You know, we're just trying to finish out the year. You know, we're looking back at some of the compliance pieces, making sure that, you know, we had them turned in, or if we missed anything, kind of revisiting those. Is there anything that we could have capitalized on as the chapter? Things like that. We did have a training set up, and unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have to push it off. The day we had selected was going to be a leadership training, and unfortunately, for our MSO, there's a big leadership meeting that day. So we're looking at pushing that one off. At this point, we're kind of in scramble mode. I think we've all been there from the chapter perspective.
That was us earlier.
How do we fill in? You know, we're not going to be able to pull off that one. What could we do? You know, and looking at dates around, especially, it gets hard to get around the holidays, you know.
You're welcome to piggyback off of ours if you want to for November.
Well, and I know that Matt McComas, he's diligently working on trying to find us a viable solution. Like you said, we did this by design. Out of the gate, we hit our training hours. Historically, we've seen, and it goes usually every other year, Eric, that when we get into this November, December, with meetings and year ends and that stuff, it gets busy, and we sometimes have to put SCTE to the back burner. So by this time, we went out of the gate to get our training hours caught up out in front of us, and that way, if there was anything we had to adjust to, we weren't panicking at the end. Outside of that, we're looking at elections. So call for nominations went out earlier this week. Louis was gracious enough to be the chair for that subcommittee.
Very
so
nice.
He's collected back some feedback. We got a couple open spots we're looking to fill. Going into December, we'll start our planning for 2024, officer elections, things like that. So that's kind of what's going on. So that's about it. What about you for your chapter?
So we finished elections on the 20th, and folks were notified of their positions. We had 6 open, and can't spill too many of the beans here because I'm not sure if all of the would-be assistants have been notified yet. So yeah, we're just waiting on that. We've got our end of year luncheon scheduled for, I think it's the 5th of December. And typically what we'll do is we'll meet here at the Dearborn Heights office. And we used to go out like to lunch, but I think for this year we're actually going to do like a cook-in, so we can just have a full meeting and get a lot done before we head into the next year.
That's a good idea, and we've done them in the past where we've had lunches brought in and things like that. So it's been pretty good. But that's about what I got going on. Had to reschedule CLC today, unfortunately, but that committee will meet up next week. We've got some ideas on the table for CLC 2024, so that's always good. That was kind of a neat part of Expo for me, getting to see some of those subcommittee folks. We're on calls with America, right, and getting to shake hands and talk to them. So that was pretty cool. But that's the extent of my SCTE. I'm ready to start the weekend shortly.
Same here. Hey, Dan and Louie, any final words before we conclude?
No, I'm good. I'm good, guys. That was like I said. I recommend anybody who gets a chance to go to the Expo to go, because that was just an outstanding experience. Yeah.
I'll ditto that, Dan. It was a great experience. I'm glad I got to go, and I really appreciate you guys asking us to be on this podcast today.
Yep.
All right, guys. Happy Friday, and maybe we'll see you at CLC.
All right. Louis Snow.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here today with fellow members from the SCTE Great Lakes chapter, all of the folks that I've got on the podcast today. We're in attendance at the Expo this year in Denver. And Sam, I'm kind of curious from your perspective, since you won our chapter member of the year, what would you say your most defining moment was at the Expo this year? Just kind of share a favorite memory of yours, if you will.
Absolutely. Good morning. So my most fond moment was winning the award. It was such a impromptu moment in my life, and it was such a honor of high regard for the status of that award. It was just really cool to see everyone rallying around in anticipation of that award, and I took a deep gasp when it happened. So that was probably my most resounding, I would say, opportunity at the Expo. And then, quickly followed up with the time I was able to spend with the board and networking. That was huge.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, and I know we kind of had to keep it a secret from you, if you will, until the night of. So I'll kind of go back and rewind a little bit on that thought. I had gotten a call from Rudy, confiding, through Robin, that you weren't to know about it. And of course, I couldn't keep it an exact secret, because the very first person I called was Chris. Chris, do you remember that conversation? What exactly did I say to you? Something to the effect of keeping it hush, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. I remember that. I was going through the Expo floor, and I was on my own. Actually, I think Ron might have been with me, and we were going through talking to different vendors. And Sam wasn't with me at the time, and when you said that, I was like, all right, we're gonna have to try to figure this out. And so my next step was to call Jason to see where he was at, to see if he was with Sam, because sometimes tracking down Sam inside of that type of atmosphere could be like herding cats. So I knew that it was going to be a little bit of work for us to be able to get them there without telling them why. So I got a hold of Jason, and he said that he would make it happen, and we worked as a team to get them there for the 40th anniversary celebration. So great job, Eric, with helping to facilitate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And outside of the Expo events, the floor events, the trainings, and such, I'm kind of curious, and I'll pivot over to Jason in that regard too, since you had mentioned you called him Chris. Jay, what was your favorite event outside of all of the formal things we did? Did you do anything fun outside of the format?
Yeah, there was some nightlife there. We visited a couple local downtown Denver establishments. There was some great food involved, of course, and just like Chris said, getting to spend time with the board outside of a quick meeting or something like that, and getting to meet them and connect with them one-on-one. So outside of the expo itself, but that would have been it. Just the attractions in the area where it was nice to spend time with our board in an establishment like that and not be involved in any work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Ron, what was your favorite part of the Expo experience? This was your first time, right?
Yes, definitely my first time, and I really don't have a good answer for you there because there were so many. The weekend, or the week I should say, came together really, really well, and I guess if I had to pick a moment, it certainly would be Sam's award. Just seeing our team come together and rally behind him and behind the chapter. Very exciting, somewhat emotional, but that was definitely the best part for me.
Nice. Hey, Matt, can you describe to our listeners out there what our road trip looked like, on the way out there and on the way back?
Yeah, Eric, first off, thanks for having us, putting this podcast together. Really appreciate it. Yeah, the road trip was good. I mean, we first met in Dearborn Heights, Michigan, and it was roughly probably about a 20-hour drive. I think Google Maps said it'd take about 18, but then we kind of left, and good thing is it was me, you, Ron, Sam, Chris, and Jason all stuffed in a Wagoneer, and boy did we stuff it in, man. So it was a good time. I mean, it was a long drive. I think we were excited. I think all of us were kind of excited going there. We drove through the night. We left around 3:00 and got there the following morning, early afternoonish. And, we had some things, we had some finagles some hiccups that, losing wallets and getting pulled over by state troopers and, but it was a fun experience. I thought that I would have changed for the world. I think that, because I'll be honest with you, Eric, I mean, I don't get a lot of chances to work with, alongside with, say, Ron or you or Jason or whatever, and just learning some of the things that, how you guys are and so forth, was just a real cool experience overall. I mean, I thought the ride there was, a lot better than the ride back, because you're excited going there, but, going on the way back, we hit some, a good barbecue joint, I think. Was that in Nebraska? I forgot.
Sam's Q. Yeah.
Was it?
Yep, sure was.
Okay.
Kearney, Nebraska, I believe. Yep.
Yeah. So that was really good stuff. A really good barbecue, really nice people there. And, I thought the overall experience, I mean, we drove a long way. We pretty much drove across the country to get there. And, some people flew, but I thought the overall experience was a good one.
Completely agree. And I'll kind of pivot at this moment over to some of our assistant members. That includes Jay for now too as well. But I'm curious, between the two Jasons and Amanda, how your Expo experience was, and kind of what your defining moments were, and how your networking skills helped kind of broaden your trip and experience overall.
I'll jump in there. So I'll start off with, just for one, I appreciate the opportunity to have the experience. And I want to say the Expo, I guess I'll start out with, I don't want to use the wrong words, but a bit overwhelming. There's a lot going on there. You kind of walk through those doors after the ribbon cutting, and I didn't know what direction to go in. There's just vendors, and there was a ton of stuff that I wanted to just go play with fiber-wise, right? I mean, there's just things all over the place. So I remember either Sam or maybe you, Eric, just stating that, yeah, we're going to come back. And in the back of my head, you're not going to have a choice, because even if you come back and only make it 35-40% through, you're still going to come across a very good experience without even covering the whole Expo itself. And I don't think I ever did that. I want to say we were in there a couple times, and every time I went in there, there was a section that I hadn't come across. So the Expo in itself was an experience and a bit overwhelming. There are obviously people trying to communicate with you, make connections as you're walking by. At the same time, you got Sam Acoff, who's a speed walker. And if you put your head down for a matter of a second and you look back up, he's gone. That group is gone. I remember walking behind Ron, and I looked up and go, wait a minute, where did everybody go? So definitely an experience, and I hope it's not my last. Outside of the Expo, coming into this group here, even as an associate, it really is kind of a warming welcome. I guess I would the best way that I can put it. It's kind of hard to walk into a group or a board, and I know some of you guys. I don't know some of the folks, and it definitely made it a very easy icebreaker. It makes it really welcoming, and actually really makes me excited to come in now. Not that every event's going to be like that, but just building the connections with you guys, teaming up with Matt playing pool, and just the whole afterlife experience was wonderful, man. Just to get there and sit there and just communicate and kick it and just enjoy the moment. I don't know about you guys, even during work, it's hard to sometimes sit back and breathe. Even after hours, you're dealing with your families. You got tasks that need to be done outside of work, your own personal tasks. Sometimes it's hard to just sit back and just enjoy the moment. So very, very positive all the way around for me. So thank you.
Completely agree. And before we pivot yet again, one of your guys took home some hardware, didn't he? Or at least he was recognized at the Expo.
Yeah, he did. So Lamont was not happy. He's definitely a go-getter. He's definitely, I want to be on top of the world. So he came home with third place medals for fiber splice and coax splice, and he was not happy about that. He felt he should have been first place in everything, pretty much. So,
well, maybe next year for him, right?
Maybe next year. Yeah. Then I told him, I said, hey, man, you made it here. It's still a great accomplishment. You were here in the national, and this time, because he's been to the Expo before, but when he went last time, he didn't compete. I said, so this is still a new experience. It's still a great accomplishment for you, along with the team themselves to make it this far. I mean, with Sam's suggestion of going to Buckeye and pretty much doing the same thing. To me, that says a lot just for those individuals, working together as a team. I think it says a lot about us and the industry that we're in. So.
Yeah, props to Dan and team for the vendor day that they put on there. Apparently that zoo thing is pretty cool and the facility is pretty cool. And I know we were asked at the golf outing, how come we don't do anything like that? And I'm like, well, So Amanda, I'm curious how your experience was. Can you kind of describe that to us? First Expo for you, right?
Yes. It was definitely a little nerve-wracking to come in late, come in alone, but luckily I met up with you guys all pretty quickly, and it was nice to get a chance to talk with everyone that attended from the chapter and get to know them on a personal level and in a social setting, not just all about work. And so it was definitely a eye-opening and exciting experience. And I have to agree with Jason, it was a little overwhelming, especially for someone who's not an engineer and doesn't work on, the fibers or hardware or things like that. And I didn't know what a lot of the things were that we passed in the booths, but it was definitely nice meeting folks I hadn't met before, getting in touch with past colleagues. Ron and I had a nice conversation about brainstorming about working on the Matrix together, and it was nice to meet Nadia and Robin, watching the cable games and the trivia. So it was definitely a great experience, and I'm honored to have been able to go and hope that I can attend future events, especially since being a virtual member of the board, or of the chapter rather.
That is very well said. Sam, any closing statements or final thoughts here for the group? Coming off of a major year here in 2023, and I know we got our fingers crossed for CLC for last year, but kind of put the spotlight back on you.
Yeah, so first off, I want to say our board does an amazing job, and we wouldn't be where we are. We wouldn't have the level of success that we didn't have without the energy, the camaraderie, the focus, and the want to do so. This group of individuals here on our podcast today are amazing leaders. They bring amazing energy, amazing ideas that have contributed to the success of the board. And as we look onward to 2024, just like you, my fingers are crossed, right, for CLC. It's such a teeth-gritting moment. But even if it doesn't end up being the case, I'll be just as proud knowing the work that we put in. This year has been amazing, though. You look at chapter leadership awards, you look at excellence certificates that we received, you look at the chapter having a member of the year participant within its chapter for the second year in a row. That's got to be applauded. We can't forget the fact that Rudy Dauncey carried this trophy in for our chapter last year. So to repeat that function says a lot about the energy that our chapter brings to the industry. You look at the networking piece, as Amanda alluded to. I got a chance to catch up with my leadership that I might not see on the regular. I got a chance to connect with other departments' leadership that you just see on virtual settings. Shout out to some of our Comcast SLT that we've seen from the division level, the region levels, the national levels, and we had a chance to showcase some highlighted technologies, right? Everybody's always interested in what Comcast is doing in the telecommunications space, and as we know, our chief network officer really showcased some things that let the industry know that Comcast is still here to compete. We take those things into our chapter, and as we network with others, we help the industry grow in that format too. So it was all around a great event. It was all around great travel. It was all around a great experience of the floor. I think those who have now had their first time experience, they'll if they have the opportunity to go next year, they'll see maybe having a task or a to-do list, right, to help keep them on track and things like that of what the targets are. But it was cool just walking in without an agenda, ready to absorb the event, and you all did well. We represented the chapter in depth, and we represented the chapter in professionalism, and I couldn't be prouder of that moment. So and thank you, Eric, for having us on this podcast, an opportunity to recap the event. This was huge, and I wish you and Rick continued success as you've been the first to establish an SCTE podcast, which others are looking on in admiration, but to continue to set the standard on what it looks like and stay competitive. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sam. Any last words from anybody else before we, say our goodbyes here? All right. Happy Friday, everyone.
Sorry.
No, go for it. What do you got?
No, I was just going to say, if you guys decide to do another road trip, I would like to put together a road trip emergency kit for you guys with, charging cables, reading glasses, umbrellas, tissues, hide sticks.
So I got the other bag at the house, Amanda. Sorry, man. I'll call myself out that I needed all that. But thank you, Amanda, for supporting that.
All right, thanks again, everyone. I hope everyone has a great Friday. And Jay, I got 2 last words for you. Scooter pass.
Scooter pass. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.